Yesterday, we discussed about what is React. We discussed about what is difference between a library and a framework. I explained this point. We discussed about what is difference between React and Angular. We discussed those points yesterday. I explained. So I explained the point when React is used, when Angular is used, right? What kind of projects uses React and what kind of projects use Angular. These things we discussed. And we discussed why we need React and Angular like technologies. For that, we discussed about challenges in modern web development. Am I right? Remember, what are the challenges in modern web development? Unified user experience, fluid user experience, loosely coupled architecture. These are all the basic challenges. These are the requirements. Now the question here the key point is how to overcome these challenges. I explained to overcome the challenges, we better build what kind of applications? Single page. We can build single page application with JavaScript, jQuery also. But then why people are going behind Angular, React like technologies? For that, few points we learned. So React and Angular are good for single page applications because they implicitly use Ajax. They handle DOM manipulations in a better way. They reduce the logic that developer have to write. Lot of other features you will see now. You will understand. So yesterday I given a brief overview on these concepts. We discussed what are these, right? Now today we are going to discuss about what are the features of React. Features of React. As we already discussed, React is a JavaScript library for building effective interface. Then what are the key features of React? Why we need to use React, right? When compared to other technologies, when compared to JavaScript, jQuery, what is the specialty in React? So let's see what are the specialties. First important feature about React, actually it is component based. It is component based. One of the key feature of React is component based. Component based means to design any complex interface, we can create the designs easily. You can use the designs easily with the help of component like concept. That means I will tell you one simple example. Suppose means what is advantage of component based, I will tell you. So don't worry about what I am using here, what I am handling here. Just see the concept. See, suppose I am having a page. Suppose I am having a page like index HTML. Suppose in index page, you know already HTML. In index page, I have designed a navigation bar. This navigation bar is having options like suppose it is having like home, it is having like about, so it is having like contact, login, so many other details are present. That means we have a navigation bar with a lot of design. That means it is not only just like this, it is having lot of effects. Suppose I am writing style for navigation, background color, some maroon. So say color as white. So text align centered. So we given display as flex. So justify content. So space between, like this I define. I'm adding lot of effects for this padding. So padding is some 20 pixel, like this we are designing. So I created a navigation bar. I designed a navigation bar with a lot of effects. That means I created styles, effects, and so many things I used here. Even there is a lot of functionality. That means home click a menu will open. So like that, lot of functionality is present. Now the same navigation bar I want in another page. Then how? You learnt already, suppose HTML. That means I have another page. This is index page. I have about page, about.html. This is about page. In this page also same navigation should be there at the top. Then how? With your HTML knowledge, how you will do this? Suppose if I want same styles across pages, I can use a style sheet. CSS file I can use. Same presentation I want everywhere. Then how you will do that? Is there any facility that you can import a HTML page in another HTML page? Actually, we can design frames, iframes, frames, we can create them. But designing a frame is not a good idea for such things. That means now how you will get the same design styles you can get, CSS, no problem, but the same markup, same functionality, then it is difficult. So what is the meaning of component based? The meaning of component based is we can build it like a separate component. That means we can build navigation bar like a component. Component means it contains a presentation, it contains a style, it contains some functionality. Now what you can do is you can just inject it into any page you want. You can just inject into any page you want without redesigning it. Without redesigning it, you can inject into any page you want. Then that is what you will learn here, how to design such reusable components. So creating such components, can we create such components with HTML, with JavaScript combination? We can, but you never learned them. So very rarely you people will learn how to design components with HTML and JavaScript. Actually, in your daily life of HTML, you use a lot of components. You use a lot of components. You may not know that. For example, you see, for example, I will show you here. We have input type date. Understand? When I say input type date, what do you think? This is date is a element. Date is a element. No, date is not a element. Date is a component. Date is a component. When you say input type date, what happens? It will put a date component here. Do you know this date component is designed with a container? In that container, there are divs and spans. In that container, there is a icon. That icon is a calendar icon. Do you know when icon is clicked, it will pop up a date. And when user selects any date, that date will be stored here. Am I right? It is a very big component actually. It is a big component. It have presentation, it have styles, it have functionality. Have you designed this component? No. This is already designed, just you are using it. So instead of creating such components again and again, designing again and again, you can create a component and reuse again and again. That makes development more easy. For example, you can observe here. I will show you. This is the key point. I will show you. I go to the settings here. These are developer tools. In developer tools, you see there is a settings tab. I will show you the part how it is designed actually. You can see that in this date, you are watching it as a date, but this date is designed with a lot of content. You can see it is designed with a lot of content. So much is there under that date. That means spans, divs, functionality, styles, classes, effects. This is component. component. So what is React? One of the key feature is it is component based. React, Angular, all these are component based. What is the advantage of component based? They enable reusability. They enable maintainability, testability, extensibility. They all will be very easy. If they are not component based, so you need to copy and paste the code. You need to customize every time. Extending is difficult, right? So what is the advantage of being component based? What is the advantage of being component based? So it is faster. It is faster in designing complex UI. Another important, it enables reusability. It enables reusability. So it is easy to extend, and it is easy to test. Testing will be easy, extending will be easy. Extending will be easy, reusability will be easy. That means if I want a design everywhere, I don't need to design everywhere. I just need to use it everywhere. You create a design and you can implement anywhere you want. That enables good reusability, extensibility, and testability. These are very much required in the modern applications. So every modern application must be easy to extend, must be easy to reuse, it must easy to test. These all are very important. So that is one advantage of being what? Component based. Component based. That is one major advantage. Second important is actually React uses virtual DOM. This is the primary feature. This is one of the major feature of React. React uses virtual DOM. And to understand this, you need to learn so many things actually. If you are having a good HTML knowledge, then it becomes easy for me to tell you, explain. Otherwise, I need to tell you from the concept of what is DOM, right? Because a React developer, when he tells that React uses virtual DOM, then first he should know what is DOM, what types of DOMs are there, and what is the difference between them. And these are very frequently asked in interviews. Almost in every React interview, you will find questions related to DOM. Compulsory, 100%. At any level of experience, you will find questions related to DOM. I will explain what that concept is. This is not a simple thing. To understand DOM, you need to know a lot of concepts, lot of things. I will explain that. To explain you what is virtual DOM, I have to tell you so many things. For that first, means I will keep these topics aside now. For that first, you need to understand. To understand what is virtual DOM, you need to first understand browser architecture. You need to understand browser architecture. These topics are very much concentrated for interviews in experience. That means generally, remember one point. Interview questions are classified into two categories. So fresher and experience interview. Questions for fresher, the questions will be what is the concept? And for experienced people, the question will be what is the architecture behind concept? That is experience questions. That means there is nothing like I give a set of questions for experienced people and freshers like that. In interviews, they ask, what is a browser? That is for fresher. What is a browser? Name some browsers. Name some browser engines. Browser engines. These are general questions for fresher. For experienced people, explain how browser works. Explain the browser engine architecture. Tell me how a browser works with your HTML, how it translates HTML, how it translates JavaScript. That is experience. What is concept? That is for fresher. What is the architecture behind that concept is for experience. If you have to crack interviews at experience level, you need to be very, very strong in the architecture behind every concept. Because nobody will ask you concept based questions. For experienced people, they will ask architecture based questions. That means explain the architecture behind this concept. For a fresher, just explain this concept, what it is. Right? Now, the point is you need to know in order to know virtual DOM, first you need to know the browser architecture. How actually browser works, how a browser works. Actually, every browser have some important parts. Every browser is having some important parts. This is the basic browser architecture actually. This is browser architecture. This is the basic browser architecture. That means how a browser actually works. This is the architecture of browser. Every browser, Chrome, Firefox, or Safari, or any kind of browser that you are using, every browser contains these components. Every browser have these components. What are these components? What is user interface? Every browser have UI. UI is nothing but the browser workspace. Browser workspace. That means you see when you open a browser, in the browser there is a title bar. There is a shortcut buttons, history button, refresh button. There is an address bar. There is scroll bars. There is workspace. These all browser UI. These all browser UI. Now tell me, is developer having anything to do with this UI? While working with web applications, is developer having anything to do with UI? Lot of things we have to do with UI. I should know what IP address he is using. I should know from which location he is accessing. I should know whether his browser is enabled with cookies or not. I should know whether his browser is having updated version or not. How you will know all this? That all information we can get from the help of browser UI. UI means what you see on browser screen. That is user interface. A developer have to do lot of things with UI. That means a browser can control refresh, a developer can control refresh. Every few seconds page can refresh, right? You can write an HTTP equi in head section. The point here is every browser have UI. Every browser have two engines. One browser engine, another one is rendering engine. Every browser contains two engines. One is browser engine, rendering engine. What is difference is the browser engine is responsible for translating your HTML. Whatever markup you written, it is translated by browser engine. How it translates, I will explain. I will tell you. How this engine works, I will show you. Browser engine is responsible for translating your HTML. After translating HTML, this HTML which is translated need to be presented on browser, which is done by rendering engine. Rendering engine is responsible for presenting the translated content. First work, translate it to HTML. After translating, present. Translation is done by browser engine. The translated content is presented by rendering engine. Rendering engine. So every browser have two engines. I hope you know some browser engine names. So browser engine, rendering engine names. What are the browser and rendering engine names? The browser and rendering engine names. Chrome have a engine called V8. V8 is an engine for Chrome. Safari have an engine called Chakra Chromium. Firefox have a engine called Gecko and Spider Monkey. Spider Monkey, Gecko, these are the engines of Firefox. Safari have an engine called WebKit. WebKit is the name of the engines. These are different browser engines actually. These are browser engines. These are browser engines. Chrome uses an engine called Blink and V8. Internet Explorer uses an engine called Trident and Chakra. Firefox uses the engine called Gecko and Spider Monkey. Edge uses Edge HTML Chakra. Recently, Edge is using an engine called Chromium, a recent engine called Chromium. And Opera uses Blink and V8, Safari uses WebKit and Nitro. These are all different types of engines. So we have seen for React people in latest interviews at MNC level, lot of questions asked related to browser architectures. A lot of questions. That means React people are 40 to 50% tested, not on React. Not on React. They are 40 to 50% tested with up to JavaScript. architecture of JavaScript, working of JavaScript, functionalities of JavaScript, JavaScript concepts. That means you can say that you cannot crack a React interview without perfection on JavaScript and without knowing the architecture behind every concept. So that means 80% experienced people interviews are on architectures only. On architecture of every concept, they ask this. So you need to be strong in that. So every browser, this is the point here. So now we have this user interface, browser engine, and rendering engine. Do you know what is networking in a browser? Browser have networking. Networking is in a browser is responsible for tracking how many requests are made for a page. How many requests are made for a page, how much time it is taken to load, how much time it is taken to access the resources for that particular page. All the performance of page in browser is monitored by networking. It is monitored by networking. So networking is responsible for monitoring all the performance of pages. Of course, you have generally, you see, this is browser. I want to know how many requests happen to this page, how much time it is taken to load. You people know. You can go to this and you can select network. Am I right? You know that. So you go to network and select. It will show the time. I refresh the page. It will show the details. It will show the details. Like what are the details? How many requests happened? 2 requests happened. How many bytes transferred? How much time it has taken to load? All this information a developer gets by knowing the network. Right? Network contains information about the performance of the page. That is general in browser. Every browser have network. Every browser is having JavaScript interpreter. I hope you people know. JavaScript interpreter is responsible for translating your JavaScript. Actually, JavaScript is having compilers also, but browser don't have compilers. Browsers have only interpreter. Actually, JavaScript is interpreted and compiled both, but browser don't have JavaScript compilers. Browser is having only interpreter. I hope if you learned in JavaScript, if JavaScript is translating in the browser using interpreter, what is that translating technique called as? If JavaScript is translated in the browser in the using an interpreter, what is the translating technique called as? It is called JIT, just in time. It is called JIT. JavaScript is a JIT compiled, just in time. We call it as JIT. It is JIT translated. That means JavaScript is translated in the browser using an interpreter, line by line translated. This mechanism is called JIT. We call it as just in time. If JavaScript is translated outside browser and it is sent to browser, we call that mechanism as AOT, ahead of time. AOT is ahead of time, JIT is just in time. And actually, JIT is done by this interpreter. Do you know who controls AOT? AOT is done by different compilers. We have compiler like Babel. Babel is a compiler. Babel is a JavaScript compiler which is used for this mechanism, AOT, ahead of time. Any technology is going to translate your JavaScript before it reaches the browser. That is using AOT technique, ahead of time. If any technology is translating JavaScript in the browser itself, we call it as JIT, just in time. Right? It is an interpreted one. That is what you need to know here. That is interpreted. So here we have interpreter, which is used for translating your JavaScript. That is done by interpreter. What is UI backend? Actually, UI backend is nothing but it contains, you have UI, UI is user interface. UI backend contains lot of APIs which are considered as extensions for your browser. Extension for your browsers. That means you are using a browser. Can you tell some browser extensions that you have used? You used some browser extensions. Any browser extensions that you have used in browser? What? Mobile simulator, good. Anything else? Mobile simulator, JWT tokens, JSON simulators, so many will be there. Hundreds of extensions will be there for a browser. Those extensions will help the browser to handle additional functionality other than what it is already having. And that is all under the concept of what? Backend, UI backend. UI backend contains lot of APIs and extensions which are responsible for making your browser perform more better, right? Handling more interactions through the browser. That is what actually we can do by using this, right? UI backend. And data persistence is nothing but data storage. Browser have a data storage. Can you tell how browser stores the data? Browser stores the data in the form of cookies. It stores in the form of cookies. It stores in the form of local storage. There is some local storage also. There are cookies. Browser can store the data and it can keep the data available for some time. It can keep for some time. It can expire after that particular time. It will delete after you close the browser. For example, you are doing some money transactions or ticket booking. When you are doing some ticket booking, then it says that 5 minutes I will give you time. Right? After 5 minutes, you need to log in again. Right? Now, up to 5 minutes, what is happening? My information is kept in the browser. And after 5 minutes, my information is deleted from the browser. Where that information is kept? Persistence. Persistence means storage. Right? Where it is stored? It is stored in, you can see every browser. In the browser, you can go to application category. In the browser, you can go to application category. When you go to application category of a browser, in the application, you can see storage. You have local storage, you have session storage, you have a shared storage. This is all the data storage location in browser. You can store the data and you can use it, access it, and use from anywhere you want. So browser have data persistence. This is data storage. This is actually data storage. You have local storage, you have session storage, you have cookies, you have a shared storage. So these are different storage locations. In React, you will learn them, how to handle these storages, how to keep the data and how do we work. Of course, in JavaScript, jQuery also, you can try cookies and all. You can handle them, right? Initially, this is the basic thing you need to understand, browser architecture. So what browser contains? Browser architecture contains UI, user interface, and browser architecture contains UI. UI means what? It describes the browser interface. So what it includes? It includes what? Browser interface includes, so title bar, it includes shortcut buttons, it includes address bar, it includes scroll bar, like how it is scrolled, how it is managed. Everything matters. Many times, I hope you people know that we can control the scroll bars also. That means whether you want a scroll bar or not, you can control that. You can control with JavaScript, you can control with CSS. You have options like overflow, right? You can control the browser UI, user interface, right? It has a lot of things. Second important is the browser is having browser engine. What is the purpose of browser engine? It translates your HTML. How it translates, I will show you now. We will see that, right? We will see. Another important, what is it? Rendering engine. Rendering engine, what it is? It presents your HTML. It presents your markup in where it presents in browser. That is rendering engine. Another important, you have JavaScript, what? Interpreter. What it does? It translates JavaScript. We call this mechanism JIT. JIT is what? Just in time. And what network will do is, network is going to, it tracks the performance of page, right? What else you have? So here we have UI backend. That means it defines the backend APIs or extensions for whom? APIs and extensions for browser. And one more is there. What is it? Data persistence. Data persistence, it includes storage for browser. And what is the storage we have for browser? We have local storage. You have a local storage. You have what? Cookies. You have what? Session storage. And you have what? So you have another one is shared storage. These are all the parts of data persistence. So this is browser architecture. This is the browser architecture. That means how actually a browser works. And example for browser engines. So various browser engines. Actually, these browser engines are responsible for rendering also. Rendering and browser engines are same. Internally, they are classified. Internally, they are divided. And what are the engines? We have like V8, we have like Chakra, we have like Edge HTML, we have like WebKit, we have like Spider Monkey, we have like Gecko. All these are the engines. These are the browser engines and rendering engines. This is the first basic thing every web developer should know, right? How his browser works, how his browser is going to work, right? Now, once we know this, the second point is what is DOM? Because a React developer have to explain why he is not using DOM, why he is going with virtual DOM, that he need to explain in any interview, right? And for that, first he should know what is a DOM, and he should know what are the various types of DOMs. Actually, technically, what is DOM? So I will show you. So DOM is nothing but it is a hierarchy. It is a hierarchy of presenting elements. It is a hierarchy of presenting elements. DOM is a hierarchy of presenting elements. How actually this DOM works, I will show you. How actually this DOM concept is done. One basic example I will show here. Actually, what is DOM is, let's see how the DOM concept works. Generally, what happens is when you are, means this is browser engine. Inside browser engine, how it is going to work. Actual browser engine, suppose we have a browser. And you may be using different types of browsers, and this is a browser. We have a browser. Now, how the browser works inside the engine, how it is going to handle everything. Let's see the part here. Actually, you as a developer, you return some markup. That means you are writing some markup paragraph, so say bold, hello. You are writing like this. You are writing some markup. As a developer, you are writing some markup, and you are also adding some effects. That means you are also writing some effects. That means what effects? Some body, you said color as what? Red. Like this, you are adding some styles. You are writing some HTML, you are writing some styles. Generally, what happens is when you write HTML, first step, this markup is translated into bytes. This markup is translated into bytes. That means it is converted into a binary form. These bytes are translated into characters. That means you will get characters like angle bracket, you will get B angle bracket close like that. These characters are translated into, we call them as, they are translated into tokens. That means these characters are combined together and kept as a token. The process of combining characters and converted into a token is called tokenization, and these are generally called as tags. For a developer, actually there are no tags in HTML. For a general developer, there is no concept of tags. HTML don't have any tags. HTML have only elements, and HTML elements are designed by using tokens. which generally people call as tags. Browser never knows the word called tag. Browser never knows that. Anywhere in browser, you will never see tag. In browser, you will see only the concept of tokenization, tokens. Now, these tokens are converted into nodes. These tokens are converted into nodes. These nodes are also called as, we call them as elements. These are called elements. That means what happens? This B is converted into bold. We call it as bold. Bold is an element and B is its token name, its token. After converting into nodes, you know that these nodes are arranged. Nodes means parent-child hierarchy. These nodes are arranged in a hierarchical order. Even you don't write in a hierarchical order, they are arranged in a hierarchical order. That means we have a parent and we have a child hierarchy. These nodes are arranged in a hierarchical order, parent and child. We have parent and child hierarchy. This hierarchy of arranging elements is called DOM. That means you return markup. This markup is converted into bytes. Bytes are converted into characters. Characters are converted into tokens. Tokens are converted into nodes. Nodes are arranged in a hierarchical order. This hierarchical order is called DOM. Even you are not writing in a hierarchy, browser knows its hierarchy. Browser knows its hierarchy. Even you don't write in a hierarchy, browser knows its hierarchy. For example, you see here, suppose I am writing here, simply I am writing here B and I am writing hello. There is no HTML, there is no head, there is no body, nothing. I just written only bold hello. I haven't written anything. And when I run this in a browser, that means let's run this in a browser. When I run this in a browser, it shows bold hello. Let's see how browser is going to arrange. You can see that the browser is going to arrange that in a hierarchical order. You can see it have a hierarchy. It knows where your bold should come. That means it knows its hierarchy. It knows its order. That means it is having an order. I haven't written any order. It knows its order. It knows where it comes in. These are elements arranged in a hierarchical order. That is what that means the DOM content is loaded. Now what happens is, after the DOM is created, this DOM will undergo a process called, we call it as layout. DOM will undergo a process called layouting. Layouting is nothing but finalizing where which information should display. That is layout. That means heading should come right side because it is aligned right. Image should come left side because it is aligned left. The hierarchy and the placement of content is finalized in a layout. Layout decides finally where which information should display. After that, this layout will undergo a process called, rendering. Now the rendering engine comes to process. Rendering in software technology means preparing the final output, preparing the final presentation. That is, rendering means ready for output. Now what happens is, whatever after rendering process is finished, this rendered information is to be presented in your browser. That is done by using a process called painting. The result of this painting is in the browser, you will see hello. The result of this painting process is what you see hello in browser. The final stage of presenting your content is painting. Painting means it will brush out your result. It will paint your result on the browser so that you can see the final result. That is the process how a browser works actually. For example, suppose you see now, this is the page. I will go to, these are developer tools. In developer tools, go to performance. I will go to performance. In this performance, this is performance. In this performance, I will refresh, start recording. Okay. It is recording the activity performed in page. I will refresh the page. Okay. Let it record for 10-15 seconds. It will take a lot of time, but not required. Just 10-15 seconds we will record, then stop. Now it will show what happened finally in the backend. Now you can see it shows what happened in the backend. This is what happened in the backend. This is the process. The process contains loading, it contains scripting, it contains rendering, and it contains painting. And the result of this painting is what actually you are watching here. This is what you are actually watching. The result of that painting is what you are watching there. This is how actually your browser works. Generally, your browser works. This is the browser architecture, the browser engine process actually. That means how the browser engine usually works. That means this is how it is going to work. And very important is here, you can see the timing, what happened. Suppose a client complains that your page is loading slow. Then as a developer, we need to identify where it is slow. It is slow. That means loading may be slow, scripting may be slow, rendering may be slow, painting may be slow. Now developer sees that painting is taking more time, then he will take precautions to reduce the time because he knows what happens in painting phase. And he will try to reduce the effort in painting. He will try to reduce the effort in rendering, right? If it is taking time, so it is taking long for doing that. That is what developer have to do, right? For that, we need to understand the architecture behind what it is happening, the architecture behind this. And very important now is actually, this is basic DOM. You understood what is a DOM. That means this is the process, how actually DOM works. Every engine have a different option. Now you have seen only HTML. You have seen only HTML, but actually simultaneously CSS also working. Suppose you are applying some styles, then simultaneously there will be CSS object model also. This is document object model and this is CSS object model. This is presenting your markup. This is applying styles to your markup. Both are objects. So now important, this is the parsing technique, how it works. First, it comes into bytes, bytes to characters, characters to tokens, tokens to nodes, nodes to DOM. And this DOM will undergo a process called layout. Layout will go undergo rendering. Rendering will undergo paint. And you can see this is how it is going to present. After rendering, it will paint and it will display the result. This is the final process, how it happens. That means it is loading your HTML, it is arranging your HTML, it is rendering your HTML, and it is painting your HTML. The same thing happens for CSS also simultaneously. So technically, so what you learned about HTML, if anybody asks what is the role of HTML? What is the purpose of HTML? Purpose of HTML is presenting DOM. Its purpose is presenting DOM, means technical speaking, right? How a developer tells about HTML. What is the role of HTML? Role of HTML is presenting DOM. What is the role of JavaScript? Manipulating this DOM. HTML presents the DOM and JavaScript manipulates the DOM. That means JavaScript manipulates the DOM means it can add elements dynamically, it can remove elements dynamically, it can change the data in elements dynamically. These all activities are done by whom? JavaScript. Right? HTML presents the DOM. So DOM is a hierarchy for presenting elements. So it refers to document object model. Refers to document model. Actually, it comprises of parent and child nodes. And very important, nodes are converted from what? Tokens. Nodes are converted from tokens. So, and very important, tokens are from what? Characters. And characters are from what? Bytes. And actually bytes are from what? Markup. From your markup, the bytes will come. That is the hierarchy of presentation. How it presents your content, how it is going to present the content. This is called DOM. DOM is a hierarchy of presenting elements. Now, you have another thing. What is shadow DOM? These are frequent questions for React people. What is DOM? What is shadow DOM? And what is virtual DOM? right? What is a dome and what is a shadow dome? That means actually shadow dome, it is a hierarchy. It is a hierarchy of components, a hierarchy of nodes in a component. Hierarchy of nodes in a component. Component again have a hierarchy. That means now, just now you saw, if you remembered, I used a page. Now in the page, this is parent. In the page, what happened? You presented some contents. What you presented, suppose in the page you have a paragraph. Am I right? And in the page you presented a date component. Date is a component. Now, if you have seen, you have observed the date component, it is again created with a lot of hierarchy. Na? Am I right? You have seen that date is created with a lot of hierarchy. That means it have divs, spans inside them. And this is actually referred as shadow. That is referred as shadow dome. Shadow dome means the dome that works for every component internal. The page is dome. The component is shadow dome. That means every component have a hierarchy again. Every component is having a hierarchy, which is called shadow dome. That's what you can see here actually. Now see what I am doing now here. Let's go to elements. I will keep here. In the settings, you will find that. I will show you clearly. See. Now what I am doing is I am creating a option like, so departure. Okay. I said input type is equal to date. Now actually every general developer can see this as only one component. There is nothing inside now. That means every developer can see it as a ordinary element. But we as developers know that this is a component, and if you want to see what is behind it, that means then we can explore the shadow dome of it. How? You can go to the settings. In the settings of browser debugger, you have an option called show shadow dome. Show user agent shadow dome. You select this show user agent shadow dome and you say shadow dome. Now close, and you can see that in the date, again, there is lot of shadow hierarchy. Now input type date is having a hierarchy now. And what is that hierarchy? You can see it is having lot of parent child elements. It is having a lot of parent child elements hierarchy. This is shadow dome. That is shadow dome. So every component have its own dome hierarchies. But we don't call as dome actually. We call it as what? Shadow dome. Right? Component related hierarchies are called shadow dome. Page related hierarchy is called dome. So in HTML pages, you need to handle these two things. That means it is a hierarchy of nodes in a component. That is what actually we call shadow dome. Now the question here is, what is virtual dome? What is virtual dome? What is the specialty of virtual dome? What is the specialty of virtual dome? The specialty of virtual dome is nothing but we have drawbacks and advantages. I will upload that presentation into Classroom. You can see all those diagrams in that presentation. Okay. Now, what is the virtual dome is nothing but this is your browser, and browser presents every content in a hierarchy. Every browser have a dome. That means browser presents the contents in a hierarchical order. This is actually browser dome. There is a dome hierarchy here. We have elements like this. Now, what is the point here is every browser, generally what happens is browser have dome. Suppose you are using JavaScript. When you are using JavaScript, this JavaScript jQuery, these will directly interact with this dome. Adding some element into dome, removing the element from the dome. And generally, after doing that on dome, reflecting that functionality on the dome, it will take time. It will take a lot of time in the reflection of that result. You added some element, then you saw the process, how it happens. You saw the process now behind how much. That means tokens, from tokens to nodes, from nodes to render layout. It's a lengthy process. That means every interaction with the dome, it is taking time. You added an element, you removed an element, you are updating data into element, everything is taking time. Then what React like technologies will do? What these React like technologies are going to do, what React is trying to do is actually it will maintain a duplicate of this DOM in its memory. It maintains a duplicate of its DOM in the memory. That means in the browser memory, it maintains a duplicate of its DOM. Now what happens is this is called virtual DOM. This is not actual DOM. It is a virtual DOM, duplicate of the DOM. Now what happens is your React interacts with this. Then this DOM immediately responds to you, but it is not still updated in the page. It immediately responds to you. Later, it will update that to the actual DOM. For you, the result is there, but in the background, it is still working. It is working. That means you feel like it is fast, but actually it is still happening in the background. That means now React applications look like they are faster. Actually, they make you feel faster. Technically, they are still working. It will take some time to finally update, but result is immediately sent to you. Just best example, you made a money transaction, you made some electricity bill payment. When you made electricity bill payment, immediately you get a screen that payment completed. Amount is debited also immediately, but it may fail sometimes. That means you got immediately result on the screen that payment complete. Then what happened is it is still in the background doing work. That means what is happening in the background is it is taking time. But for you, confirmation is sent. But this confirmation may change later sometimes. But what is the trust on React for us is, that is the reason everybody is not satisfied with React. We are not everybody satisfied with React. Right? It's not like React is good in everything what it is doing. I don't want something what React is doing. I'm not completely satisfied with really what React is doing every time. That means I am satisfied with certain functionalities, but not satisfied with everything. That is the reason developers have a lot of problems with React also. I will tell you issues. What are the issues? But this is good. This is okay. That means, so it is showing you the result. So, but it is updating later. It's fine. You got the result. You saw the result. This is the advantage of virtual DOM. Now, why developers are not satisfied with these issues? I will tell you. What are issues? We will discuss. What are the problems in React? What are the issues with React? We were going to discuss separate concept. I will tell you. But this looks better. That means you are not directly interacting with DOM. You are interacting with a duplicate DOM, which is called as what? Virtual DOM. This makes React applications feel like fast. And of course, they make you feel like fast and they work faster, but in the background, it is taking time. It will happen certain time to update into that actual DOM. Right? Now, what are the problems, issues? We will see that, how it is handled, right? So what is difference between these three things? That means what is DOM, what is virtual DOM, and what is shadow DOM? These are the three basic things. Just to explain one feature, you need to know a lot of things. To tell you the feature, it uses virtual DOM. I need to explain all this. Because if you already know about this at HTML level, that is good. But many people are not aware of that. That's the reason I need to give an overview. Because these all general HTML people already learn. Because when they start learning HTML, they should know how their HTML works minimum. Right? But many people are not aware. That's the reason I just given an overview about this. What is that DOM and virtual DOM? Virtual DOM is nothing but it is a duplicate. It is a duplicate copy of actual DOM. So Reacts interact with this virtual DOM. That's the reason React applications are faster. So these are the important two basic features of React. Now we have some more features and drawbacks of React that we will see in next session. Right? We will finish that in the next session about the features of React. And once we do this, in the next session, we are going to start practical now. That means how React works, what is its architecture, what to set up, install, how do we work with React. Practically, we are going to see. That means we are going to start building applications using React. For that, you need to know two things, features and issues and its architecture. Architecture, I will explain in the next session. Then we can start working with React practically. That we'll see in next session. right? And next session, tomorrow we don't have session. Again, session will be on Monday, right? So tomorrow, no session. Again, our session